Hey everybody, I'm Sam Solomon and this is Signal Tower. Today I'm joined by Murat Mutlu, who is the co-founder of Marvel, which is a code-free prototyping tool for websites and mobile applications. Murat, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's begin. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
So I'm a designer based out in London. I've been designing websites, applications and stuff for agencies, startups in and around London for the last 7, 8 years. And more recently, I co-founded Marvel, the prototyping tool. As like my first startup or venture. And yeah, it's something it's our first, maybe we started in November full time. So we're just into it now and we're getting stuck into the hard part.
Yeah. Well, so, you've also worked at, you've worked at Nokia and several
Oh, yeah.
agencies, and now you're building this prototyping tool, Marvel. What led you to starting your own business? What gave you that spark?
Well, I've always really wanted to work on my own products. Like it was, I realized maybe about 3 or 4 years into the agency life, and I was doing all these campaigns and things that never really lived beyond, the length of the campaign. So you're doing an app that's based around the launch of a brand's new product, and it would just fizzle out after a couple of months. And I was like, I want to do something with a bit of longevity. I wanted to speak to users a lot more, and something with a bit more meaning that solved the problem. So naturally, I started gravitating towards products and within side projects and stuff like that. And it wasn't until last year, or I didn't really have an idea to make into a startup. It was more a case of just trying different things, and eventually got to the idea of Marvel, and I was like, actually, this is one thing that could potentially be a business. All the other things were like throwaway ideas. They were a little bit, a lot of fun stuff. Like there was an Instagram photo finder that found photos around your location. There was a music lyric analysis tool. There was a bunch of other things that that wouldn't have gone anywhere. But yeah, when I started to think about Marvel, I was like, actually, this could solve a problem for a lot of designers. So it was this pitch that sparked off the idea. The agency I was working on, we kept losing pitches, and there was this one pitch where I was put on, and I was going to do all of the mock-ups for the brief. For the actual pitch itself. So in typical agency fashion, they throw everyone at it: it's planner, biz dev, and a designer to do all the mock-ups. So heads down for like 2 weeks on this pitch. I basically did the best possible work I was capable of doing. So all the UX and UI was done. It was all done in Retina because it was an iPhone app.
Right.
And you imagine the amount of internal resources went into a pitch like that. So after I'd done a ton of work for it, I handed it over to biz dev, who went and presented it. And I caught up with him kind of a couple of weeks later. I was like, how did that pitch go? He was like, oh, we lost the pitch. And I was like, geez. I was like, I did all that work. I was like, how could we possibly have lost it? I thought I did, some of the best work I'd ever done. So I was like, can you send me the deck? So he sends me the deck, and I open it up, and my designs are just like butchered. There's clip art in there. There's logos. There's like things squashed down. The Retina designs just don't look like anywhere near how they were meant to. So, I immediately thought, like, right, every impact in that design is lost. It's out of context. It's a terrible, it's a terrible way to show to a client. And I bet, the biz dev guy was standing in front of, the client maybe 5 meters away, pressing the right and left arrow keys really quickly, going between screens. I was like, the client's just sitting there with more questions than answers. So for the next pitch, which was for an iPad app, again, it was worth a lot of money to the agency. I was like, right, this time around, let me just come in, and I will just email my designs to the iPad so I can store it on the photo roll, and I will just show it to the client after you do all the creds. So after you've done all this spiel, I sat down with the client. I went, here's what it could look like. And the client was like, oh my God, that's incredible. You guys have done all the work already. It looks amazing. And started to try and touch the screen. And I was like, wait, it's just a slideshow, this isn't the real thing. But in that instance, you could see that in the client's eyes, they just thought, yes, these guys can pull off this project, and we won the pitch. So I thought there and then, I was like, wow, okay, something happened there where the agency made a lot of money. I saved myself a lot of time in doing like, amends or like, doing all this other stuff. There must be an easier way to do this. So that's how Marvel came about. It's like a simple way for people who don't know how to code to put together something interactive, touchable and clickable that looks and feel like the real thing.
It is, and it's a great tool. I mean, I feel like a lot of people out that aren't basically working on the web, and UX designers that are trying to figure out how all these little interactions and things are happening. It's hard for them to picture things just looking at a PDF or a JPEG. So it's really cool. And I will say, several years ago, I'd kind of come up with the same thing, like creating hotspots on PDFs. It didn't have any interactivity, but it was like, if you click here, this is what it'll take you to this page.
Yeah.
It's a great concept. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of these side projects. You kind of hinted at that earlier. You built Tuner.io was kind of the Hack Day project you talked about that analyzes lyrics in the Billboard Top 100. You built a tweeting kettle that got featured in Wired. Tell us about some of those projects.
So, so very early on into my kind of agency life, I kind of started to feel that a lot of ideas were getting rejected of mine that were actually good ideas. You've probably experienced the same thing. Is like, I get quite personally attached to some of a lot of my ideas, and I feel like when they get rejected by clients or internally, I still don't believe there's, I still want to see them made. And after a while, I was just like, a couple of years in, I was like, I need to start seeing these things. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like I'm dying inside, like every time an idea gets rejected, it feels like it's chipping away at my soul. So I reached out to Brendan, who's my co-founder now. And I was like, Brendan, let's just do a couple of these things on the side. I've got these good ideas. No one wants to make them here. Let's just make them. So the first one was Instabam, which is like like I said before, a location-based photo finder for Instagram. And now that actually came from a rejection from a client when I went in and said, this is what you should do to target, this new audience around photo sharing. Back in the day when Instagram had like 1 million users, and their API just came out, I thought, I tried to sell it in, they rejected it. I was like, right, I'm going to do this. I don't care what you say. So we did it, and we built it and we put it out there, and it got like, it's got like 150,000 downloads now, and it's doing really well for something that we've done, over the course of evenings and weekends. So that kind of spurred us to do more and more things together. And Tuner.io was a really interesting one because we went to San Francisco to kind of get inspired and get this kind of, find out what all the fuss was about, because you hear a lot about all this crazy stuff going on in the tech industry over in California. Right. Where in London, it's like, you look around, there's not much going on. So we're like, okay, this must be like the Mecca, right? We have to go out there and see what's going on. So we went there, we went to a lot of meetups, and we applied for this Hack Day. So I'd always had this idea around how rap music was very formulaic. Like, you could probably, if you just dismantled it, you could just segment it into like, okay, sing about a bit of cash, sing a bit about your cars, and sing a bit about women, and that's pretty much how it's pieced together, no matter what you listen to. So I was like, well, looking at the APIs we had at this Hack Day, you had to pick a certain ones from a certain bunch. The music match one was available, so that like any lyric is accessible through API in any song, and you get the Billboard chart and position with it. So alongside that, there was a semantic text API which we could run the lyrics through to find out whether it is positive or negative connotations, whether it had profanity, pick out materialistic words. We could pick out whatever we wanted out of a song. So we combined those two together, and we were basically able to reorder the Billboard Top 100, but reorder it based on lyrics that we wanted to, like segment. So if you, for example, wanted to find out the top 10 songs with the most profanity, we could then reorder the Billboard 100, and then you could see it that way. Or you could see the top 10 songs with the most materialistic lyrics, the most whiny, the most gushy. So songs that said love, hug, cry, all those things. So we could reorder it any way we wanted, and it's like a really interesting way to look at the charts because you can see out of the top 100 how many songs contain the word love, how many songs that in that top 100 are negative, are positive, and you can see what sells. So it's kind of an interesting way to look at things. So that's we did that in kind of San Francisco, and it was just like these are all just like Signal Tower is just passion. You want to create, you just want to keep making, because you don't want to feel like you've stopped. Because anytime I feel like that, I just feel like I'm kind of, like I said, I'm dying inside. So I need to keep moving and need to keep producing things like little ideas that can turn into bigger ideas, and that's what Marvel was. And after Tuna, it gave us the encouragement because we ended up winning a hack day.
That's awesome.
Which was winning. I mean, it wasn't a massive amount of money. It was like $500, but it was. I'd run out of money in San Francisco at that point, so it was good because it meant I could keep buying burritos. So after that, we came back and we were just like, right, let's, we won this hack day. Let's just do this Marvel thing that I've been talking about. And we had a go at it, and over the course of the evenings and weekends, we built it, and it is another side project. I mean, this time last year, we were still in our bedrooms making it. Like,
right.
It all started from this very seat. We were just messing around and speaking over Skype and doing a bit here, a bit there, until we had something which could be released. And that's why I think side projects are amazing. I just think, like, if you're engaged in what you do and you love what you do, I just think that, they're a natural extension of that. When you feel like your creativity is being, it's being confined a little bit. And most designers, when I speak to them as well, it's like everyone has side projects. Everyone seems to have side projects, and everyone really wants to work on them full time. If you ask them the question, would you rather be going in or would you rather be on your side project full time? They're going to say the side project. And we're just lucky that we're now able to do that full time. I think, like, it's an amazing opportunity we've got, and I'm just like, I'm over the moon at the moment to be able to just go in every day and work on this thing.
That's awesome. And yeah, I know almost all the designers I know too are working on small things on the side, myself included, which this is one of my side projects. So, I guess where do you draw inspiration for coming up with things? Obviously, the tuner.io is kind of something that's in the past, but where did that idea come from? Obviously you mentioned about the idea about Marvel, where that came from, but as a general whole, where do you draw the ideas that you come up from, and how do you decide which ones to execute on?
That's a good question. I don't know. I just think that just absorbing loads of, just reading loads and looking at, I've got tons of things, whether it's like Pocket, Dig, Reader, Product Hunt, all these things that I'm just like, consuming every day, that are just like letting me know that certain things are available. So I might see an idea that might, mean there's another API available that I could use, or there is another idea that I could piece together from another idea, or I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know if any of these ideas are original. Probably not. They never are, but they just seem to be a mixture of just, I don't know, having a bit of fun, doing something that seems really interesting to me. And there's never one thing. It's just crazy ideas that you write down and that you hope that might turn into something when you get a bit of time to try it out. I'll keep a list of ideas that I have on like on a notepad, just to see which ones we can do at a hack day or which ones we can do if we've got any time. But yeah, there's no I don't know where the ideas come from, to be honest.
Well, I just think. Let me ask you about that kind of list of ideas. At some point, do you go and like cross some of them off and say this one isn't feasible, it's going to take too long, or like, I guess how does that list work?
Yeah, so it's just understanding what's technically possible, and the best way to do that is just work with developers a lot and understand what it takes for them to put something together. Even sometimes a small idea, like it can take a couple of weeks. So you want to be realistic about people's time. And as I guess is one of the problems with not being able to develop myself. It's really frustrating. That's where Marvel kind of comes into it. Is like you feel like you're kind of handicapped in a way because you have to rely on a developer to put your idea together. But yeah, I mean, it's just about being realistic and knowing what's possible in the time you've got.
Well, I think side projects are hugely important, and my previous interview with the crew founder, Mikhail Cho, that was like a huge part of how they gained traction, was building all these little side projects. I'm wondering if these side projects that you've worked on, obviously a lot of these were a couple years ago, how do you think that has that benefited Marvel?
Yeah, I think so. I think well, number one, it gave me and Brennan a chance to work together when we might not have otherwise. We were both freelancers doing different things. I got to understand that, he would be him and John, who's my other co-founder, it would be the perfect people to start a business with. Like, as soon as I met him anyway, when I was working with them, I was like, you guys we share that, we clearly share the same passion, let's work together, and then it's just like a stepping stone to the bigger thing. So yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend it whenever you can. Just find the developer or start making stuff and putting it out there, and it will, you don't know what could happen from it. It might introduce you into an investor. You might find your users for your next project. You might get a bit of press. You might get a few more followers. I don't know. It just seems like it's win-win whenever you do something like that. There's no bad outcome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I guess it's also kind of hard to tell when you're working on these projects. You may think that it's going to be the next big startup at the time, and maybe it's not. But down the road, the fact that you tried that may have a residual effect.
Yeah, totally. And I think that you can find the balance, right? You don't want to bet the house on it, but you want to do it because you love doing it. It's a lot of fun, but it shouldn't be your side project should be that kind of thing. You get home, you fire it up, and you're in your zen when you work on it, and it just like that's kind of how you should feel. If it's stressing you out and you're like, oh Jesus, I need to get this thing out because it's gonna, whatever's gonna happen, I don't think it's probably bad, because you may never get the feeling that you want from it. But it should just be like, yeah, bit of fun, get it out there, and see what people say. And then if it does start to take off, or it does have legs, or you do see anything else, it's like that's when you know to take it more seriously.
I want to move on and kind of talk a little bit about ad agencies and things like that, but I do want to touch on the FollowPie Instagram bot.
Okay.
Is this bot that you created to kind of automate what you had noticed manually to help you gain followers? Tell us about that project.
Yeah, so the Instagram project I spoke about before, we really thought it was a good app that we'd made, and it not really got any traction. And we just believed that, it was because not enough people were seeing it. So everyone was like saying, you need to buy some ads. Here you go, tell about it. You should buy ads here, there. But it was a side project, so we didn't have any money for ads. But there was one thing, when I was using Instagram at the time, I was just like, I just felt the popular page was really interesting to me. It intrigued me so much. I was like, why are these people on here? What is the algorithm to get popular? Imagine if our app was on the popular page. Wouldn't that be amazing for our download count? So I quickly realized that if you wanted to be on a popular page, you needed a certain amount of followers who kind of had to like your photo a certain amount of times. I didn't know much more than that. So I decided to start just following loads of people and seeing what happened. And as I started to follow those people followed me back. And it was like, for every 50 people I followed, maybe 5 would follow me back. And I was like, wow, okay, this is great, because my follower count's building up, but it's taking a lot of time and I can't be bothered to do this every day. So I spoke to Brendan. I was like, Brendan, what do you think about automating some of this stuff I'm doing manually and seeing what happens? And he was like, cool. And then in about 24 hours, we had this like bot up, and we were running it. And we had a few different commands in it. And it's kind of like we actually had the MVP of the bot, and then we kept making the bot better. So we added more features to the bot. So it's kind of interesting. So first, the only thing the bot could do is follow people. And that was cool. So it was just following loads of people, and people were following back. And it was doing it. Basically, it could follow around 100 people an hour. And and we just ran it, and it just kept doing that every day. And I noticed, so as these people were following me back, they were also liking my photos, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. So what if we allowed the bot to like their photos as well as following them, just to see if the reciprocation is kind of more intense. So, you know, for every follow the bot did, it would also like the first 2 or 3 photos the person posted. And now, once that happened, the person would not only follow back, but like all of my photos sometimes, and, you know, keep liking photos, and also post a comment saying thank you for liking my photos. So yeah, it was really interesting kind of behavior, an insight into the behavior of people, and how much, you know, likes and follows kind of are appreciated. So as we started to build this over the months, I was starting to get a really serious amount of followers, and my photos were starting to get on the popular page. So in amongst all this, what we did is, on Instagram, you get to put a link in your profile, which can be to your Twitter or whatever. And we decided to put the link in the profile to the app we'd made in the App Store. So people's natural behavior, right? When you watch how they behave on Instagram, they get a notification that someone has liked their photo. They don't know who that person is. Their natural instinct is to check out that profile of that person if they've never seen it before. They read it, and they may or may not tap on the link. But when you multiply this by hundreds and thousands, you know, of times, you're going to get people clicking on that link and downloading your app.
Right.
So when we started ramping up the bot to like the extreme, so we just push the lever on it and just be like, right, let's maximize this, let's leave it running 24 hours a day, smashing the API, and see what happens. Our downloads just shot up. My photos kept getting on the popular page. I think 1 or 2 occasions in the same. I actually had like two photos in the same day, which were getting like thousands and thousands of likes, like 5,000 likes, hundreds of comments, and all these people just driving. It's just a big, just a circle of driving people back to the profile page, driving them to download the app. And I kept posting stuff about the Instagram app that we'd made on as a photo, so people would, you know, be driven that way. And it was just like a big kind of bot marketing thing. But what's really important is that there was nothing fake about it. It was still my profile, so it had that legitimacy to it, which made people trust it. So you see my personal photos on the feed. You know, not trying to sell you anything, not do anything. It's just like automation of something that I was doing anyway. And yeah, it managed to get us to that 150,000 download mark, and it did really well. And then, you know, I think now Instagram have they've rate limited the API, so you can't do what we did again. But it was a really interesting experiment.
Definitely, and it's a very, very cool growth hack. Well, let me ask you this: if it was the Instabam page instead of your own personal one, do you think it would have been as successful?
No, it would have got blocked. So I just, you know, I think if people would have seen this like branded page, follow them, and liking their photos, I think they would have just hit the report button a lot. And after a certain amount of times, if that report button gets hit on your profile, Instagram are going to block you. So
right,
I was very careful to keep it personal and not seem like it was a branded thing or a company or anything else. So that's why I chose to go down the personal route. I think it would have done a lot worse with our own sort of Instagram profile.
Well, let's see. Let's talk about advertising agencies, because okay. I think one of the very first things I read from you was your article, "Why Talented Creatives Are Leaving Your Shitty Agency," which I think is an absolutely fantastic article. And you know, one of the things I talked with Matt Strom and Josh Gross, who had just started Planetary, this agency. But one of the things we talked about is this concept that basically the death of the agency. I think Jeffrey Zellman wrote a post about it. What are your thoughts on kind of the future of advertising agencies?
I don't know. I think it's in a really tricky area at the moment, and it's been in it for a while now. So the future is that talented people are leaving, and that's what's happening right now. They're not being replaced. The work is getting worse. The clients aren't getting as much value, and it means that either the clients are starting to take things in-house, which we're seeing a lot more of now. You know, why pay an agency all this money when you could just hire the same sort of people, build a team in-house, and do it a lot cheaper and kind of a lot better in most cases. But then the other side of things is brands aren't willing to pay as much money, so they're putting stuff out to tender that is just like, you know, it's just people fighting over scraps. It's just like race to the bottom of pricing, and people just doing jobs for as cheap as they can be. And you know, I've seen agencies set up with just basically a ton of interns and students who will just undercut everyone and do that, you know, do that stuff for the cheapest, and brands are going with them. So I don't know. It's an interesting time. I don't really see much changing. I haven't seen it in the last, well, since I wrote those posts, and you know, a few years before. You're getting more and more people splinter off and do their own thing. So you're getting like a few talented people set up another agency, which is kind of smaller, more nimble, has better ideas, but eventually those small agencies are going to become big agencies, right? It's like, you know, you're not, as bigger clients come, or the clients want more work, you need more people, you know, it just seems like a cycle. But most of the designs I know, all the good ones anyway, have already moved into product, and they've moved into startups, or they're moving into tech companies, just to be able to, you know, keep themselves moving ahead of the curve. So I don't know. That's the kind of thing at the moment, is that I don't see. Obviously, they're not going to be wiped out, but I see lots of things changing, like business models, or the ways of working, or the type of work they're going to be getting. That's the kind of things that's going to change, I think.
At the core, you know, it seems to be a continuous, you know, issue. As you said, you know, it may break off, and when they're a small agency, they'll do cool stuff, but as they gain bigger and bigger clients, what do you think the core of the problem at agencies are?
So it's just a mixture of a couple of things. So one of them is the work that comes in. I know from experience that you spend a lot of time working on stuff that's considered as like fluff, right? Like something that doesn't, you know, that's not going to make any impact, that no one's going to care about, that is going to be forgotten really quickly, and probably it's not even going to look that good in your portfolio. And it's just like this willingness to accept work that just isn't very good, or no one's going to push back on the client and tell them this is a pile of crap, because, you know, when you do that, you're going to turn down that money that's going to come in, and that's a hard thing to do. And the people that do it, you know, do that and actually tell clients, no, we won't take on this work, you know, are ones that are ultimately going to have the most interesting work, the best kind of portfolios, and going to attract the best talent. So you look at someone like us too, who don't do any of that, you know, any of that stuff where you would create an iPhone app to sell, you know, some shower gel or some soap or anything like that, just because it's a, you know, a new launch for a brand. And then the other part is clients themselves. So they never really want to push the boat out and do something a bit different or try anything new. They're quite happy to do status quo. And you know, what I found was, even if you have these really great ideas and your client doesn't want to accept them because no one ever got fired for doing something that's just like, you know, not risky, right? So your client just wants a pat on the back for doing their job, for, you know, fulfilling the brief they've been told. The agency just wants the money coming in from that piece of work and turn it out as quickly as possible, and that's it. And that's been the situation for a long time. And yeah, I guess those two things combined, just like, you know, something that's just like killing the creative vibe that you have and the willingness to do great work. And that's what's been missing for a long time, is that no one really wants to do great work. It's all down to just money and hitting targets. And you know, I've worked at several big agencies in London, and all the same, like, for whatever they say on, you know, their website or their pitch deck or whatever, when it comes down to it, it's just the same stuff. It's just like, you know, there is there is a target that needs to be met, and if you try and stand in the way of that, then you're likely to be pushed aside. That's it.
Yeah, I definitely think that there are, I've kind of got this theory called the hamster wheel, where you never really, as a business, want to be trading time for money.
Yeah.
In this economy, basically labor and productivity have been decoupled, but
Yeah.
my thought is kind of ad agencies, that hasn't happened yet. Well, also, I believe, you said earlier, a lot of agencies are trying to move into products. At the same time, I know that, at least in one of your blog posts, you expressed skepticism about an agency being able to create the next Angry Birds or Instagram or things like that. Do you still think that's true?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we still haven't seen it since, and that was 4 years ago, that post. So it's incredible because the pieces are there, right? Like the designers, developers, they're the best people to market as well. So they've got the full circle of what you need to get something off the ground. But they don't understand, the people that run the agencies and at every level don't understand how products work, and that they're an iterative, long-lasting thing. You give it attention, you listen to users, you get feedback, and you make things better. And it just doesn't, it's not like you just do it and then leave it. It's like, it's something that you've got to keep working on. And there's that lack of understanding, but there's also there's no willingness to try, which is also kind of annoying. But it doesn't make sense, just because the pieces to put it together are all there. And I guess the designers want to do stuff like that, the developers want to do stuff like that. It's just the people that manage their time, don't see it that way. So
definitely. Well, let's talk a little bit about Marvel.
Okay.
We touched on a little bit on what it is and kind of how it started. Tell us a little bit more in depth about what you guys are doing right now.
So right now is an interesting time. Like, we had that 60K Angel round in November, which ran out, and we're starting to get revenue in from the site, and we have just literally closed the seed round. So we'll be
congratulations.
Thank you. So we'll be able to hire people, build out the team, and kind of take it to the next level, because it's a very early stage product of what we want it to be. There's a massive opportunity here just to have a tool that's kind of lowering the barrier to getting into the space and lets everyone get involved without intimidating, UX and UI, just something you can just jump into and make things come to life. So that's the aim. But first of all, we just need to build a team. Brendan has been doing all the back end, and Jonathan has done the iOS app. And other than that, up until this point, we've been hiring freelancers to help with the rest of the stuff. And we've had some really great freelancers, but it's still one back end doing most of the work. So we need to address that and hire and build out a team to support that, and then keep going, really, and just kind of fulfill our vision, which we want to become the #1 prototyping tool, and not stop until we get to that point. So I think what we've been able to do with 60K has been pretty good, considering it's a very small amount of money, and we should have definitely raised more. And that's one thing I've learned, is that take more than you need. Because we were like, yeah, it's cool, we've got a developer, we've got a designer, you don't need any more money than 60K. It's like, yeah, actually, you don't know what's going to happen in that period of time. And that, something's going to break, something you're going to need to scale, you might, you need a helping hand. And that's that's something we definitely took into consideration when we raised the seed round, is like, take more than you need.
Well, I guess also right after you raised that seed round, you ended up rebuilding the app, right? Yeah. You guys had to completely start from scratch.
Yeah. So when I spoke about designing and building stuff in your bedroom, yeah, I mean, that's you never really think it's going to be used on a wide. You just build it and you just assume that it's just going to go out and a couple of people are going to use it, and that's cool. So we built it we built it with that kind of expectation. it was just like a quick and dirty thing to get an idea across and hopefully help a few people. But as soon as we kind of raised that money, that initial 60K, and we started to let people in and started to get more popular on things like design and news, we quickly realized that it was never going to scale and allow us to iterate quickly, because it was all written in PHP and it had a bunch of other stuff that just wasn't, going to allow us to do what we needed to. So we had to make a choice, right? We could either patch things up for the next 6 months. Hopefully, when the next round comes, we would sort out all the mess we made, and just just keep making sure it didn't fall over and break and stuff. Or we could just take 2 months, rewrite everything, make sure it's rewritten to scale, make sure it's going to allow us to move as quickly as we need to, and do that. So we chose the rewrite, and now a lot of people would say that was a bad choice because you need to keep moving forward and improving the product. But we would just had so much technical debt, or whatever you want to call it. It would have just been a bad idea. We would have had to have done it anyway. During that period, the implications of it was we were 2 months late on our roadmap. We had to tell investors that the expectations we had and now need to be pushed back. So that's also another conversation you have to have, because now you need to, you need to justify your decisions. And also you got to tell the people using it that there was no improvements made to the site during those 2 months. And that also meant bug fixes. There were no bug fixes. So that bug that's been annoying you is going to be there for a long time. And that's just the reality of it. We were so going hard in on this rewrite that, things were still breaking, things were not going right. There was, a lot of unhappy users during that time, and we just tried to manage it the best possible way we could. But yeah, it was a tough time, because you want to feel like you're progressing, but you don't really see anything changing. But looking back on it now, it's completely the right decision.
Good. Well, that was going to be my next question. Was that the right decision? So
yeah, now we've got a proper setup. It feels like other developers, when they come in, they could just plug in, get into it quite easily. We've got I'm not massively technical, but we've got our stuff sorted out. It feels like that we went from this single server to this 5-6 server thing on Rackspace, and a bunch of other things going on. GitHub repos for everything. People could just come and do different branches for different freelancers, and it sounds pretty cool. Looking in as a designer, but yeah, it's definitely worth it, and it just feels like now we launch features weekly, which is pretty amazing. And we've had one big feature that we're doing recently, which has taken a lot of time, which is Teams. But now we're kind of over this hurdle, and we're kind of iterating quickly, and that's exactly what we want to do, because it just feels good to ship stuff. When stuff's just building up and not going anywhere, it feels like just like you're really frustrated, but it's good. It's definitely a good thing.
Well, and as you said, obviously you're the designer, but let's talk a little bit about your role. What does your day look like?
So my day is basically getting up, checking customer support emails, answering any support emails before I leave to go to the office. And a lot of our users are in the States, so there's also there's a ton of stuff that comes in while you're sleeping, which I'm guessing we'll probably have to address as we get bigger. We're going to need some support stuff, because you don't want to leave people waiting 7 hours to get a response. So, but yeah, so I answer the support emails. I check any of personal business emails, and then head into the office to meet the team. And we have our tasks that we do for the month, for the week, which we put in Asana. So we know a good idea what's achievable in a week and where we need to be at end of each week. I will do a mixture of designing throughout the day, tweeting, customer support, speaking to investors, and trying to think about the future of the product and stuff like that. It's basically just like jack of all trades. I just do everything. And as it's the same, Brendan and Jonathan, we're all doing multiple roles, trying to figure out, the best way of working and figure out where we can bring people in to support us. And that's kind of over the next 12 months. That's going to be the role is like my role is to figure out actually should I bring in another designer? Like you know, or should I bring in biz dev, or should I bring in someone on growth or marketing or support who can kind of take what's taken up a lot of my time that can be better spent on either growing the business or designing the product. Or maybe I shouldn't even be designing the product anymore. Maybe I should just move on to growing the business. So it's kind of like these interesting decisions that need to be made. But yeah, I mean, at the moment it's just a bit weird. It's like it's just a mixture of everything. There is nothing in any day that is the same as the other day. So you know, one day I might be just paying bills. Like I might be paying bills, doing invoices, speaking to accountants, and the next day I might just be doing legals or speaking to lawyers or doing stuff like that. And I come home at night and I do the design at night because that's when things are quiet. And yeah, so it's a bit all over the place. And if we're soon about to get into a better process, at the moment it's just because things have been crazy with the fundraising, which takes up a lot of time. So basically in the last 3 months I haven't really done much design. And what the result of that is, there's a couple of crappy experiences in Marvel because they haven't been thought through properly, because I've needed to make a decision that I haven't thought about entirely, because we have to keep the dev moving no matter what. So if I'm going out pitching, you know, having Brendan or anyone else come on that pitch process is just a waste of their time. So best to keep them shielded from it and just to keep the dev moving. So yeah, in the result of that is just that I'm not happy with a couple of things in Marvel. So now I get to address that and fix things up and make it feel like a real, like, version 1 of a product. So that's it.
So you've got some big decisions to make coming up here.
Yeah, some really big decisions. It's you know, to let go of the design, you know, is kind of the biggest one, and it's got, you know, something you've got to kind of do, I think. So.
Well, are there any features or things coming up that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so the iPad app is nearly ready to go. It's been rejected by Apple, and so we're
conveniently.
Yeah, conveniently. So now we're reworking how that works a little bit, the sign-up flow. We've got, what have we got? So we've got Teams, so that's coming out, and that's going to be, the launch of Teams is probably in a week or two. And it basically allows you to make as many teams as you want. So you can start a team with your company, you can start a team for a hack day, you can start a team for your side project, and add as many people as you want to that team, and also have as many teams as you want. So the idea behind it is that there's a lot of other services which allow you to add people into a project. And I just thought, like, you know, there's limits on that. But people don't really work in those silos. Like, every designer or every creative has tons of other things going on, like, you know, projects with different people, projects with different companies, clients, freelance, whatever. You don't want to be like, okay, you have you don't want to be kind of limited to this kind of account that is just around this business, like the business you work in. So you might have your agency will have your prototyping account, and you can only put in people from that agency. You know, that's how some of them work, and I didn't feel that was the right way. So we've gone with the unlimited team structure, which is similar to Basecamp in a way. And yeah, that's kind of a big one. After that is Google Drive integration. You know, we've got an Android app coming, and yeah, I think those are kind of the main ones in the next couple of months. And then from there, we want to keep making our pro users happy and adding more features. So there'll be some really, really good stuff coming in, you know, three months time that will just like blow people away. Like, we've got doing some crazy stuff on the back end to make life easier for people.
Awesome. I'll look forward to seeing some of those features. Well, we're almost out of time. You know, I do want to touch on a few more things. You wrote that you thought you should have networked more while you were freelancing or fully employed. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, like with the startup world and fundraising and investors and stuff like that, it really is about who you know. Like, and when I was in this kind of agency advertising world, you know, everyone knows everyone in the advertising world, and that's all cool. will never help you like raise any money. It's just a different type of industry and different type of people, and you really need to get recommendations to get funding. Like funding is like based on is always based on intros and things like that, and people who are well respected recommending you and stuff. And I just felt like when I came into this business, I did not know anyone. Everyone I knew was like great at, great if you wanted to make a branded app with an agency, but no one knew any investors. So I wish I'd spent a lot more time going to the events that where all these people hang out, or going to meet more startups, or going to meet more founders, which I have done now. I've kind of rectified it, but yeah, I would have definitely had a 6-month head start on this if I had done that. There's nothing better than a recommendation into an investor from someone they trust. It just works really well, and you're in the door straight away. And so I would definitely recommend getting out there, whether it's getting yourself known on Twitter, getting yourself known for your blog posts, following all these people that are going to be important to you at some point. And it might not be now, but if you have an idea brewing, start the process as early as possible. So you might have the idea in January, but you might not even get it live till December. In that time, you should still be meeting people and speaking to people and trying to get the word out about who you are and how good you are at what you do. And yeah, that's kind of my advice for it. I just felt like when I stepped into it, I was like a no one in the startup space. In the agency space, yeah, because I'd written blog posts and stuff, but really, you need to make a name for yourself and make sure that people keep thinking about you. And that's my recommendation.
I'm curious, and that's great advice. But I'm curious if there's anything, I guess, specific tactics that designers can take to kind of get known, or maybe things that they should know if they're trying to start a business.
Yeah, so blogging is the most obvious one. It worked out really well for me. I had that Mobile Link blog for a while, maybe 4 years. It was just a place for me to just release ideas and just ideas and thoughts and concepts and side projects and stuff like that. And it was worked out great because over the years I'd built up not only a readership, like people subscribing through RSS, but also like an email list which I could just ping out when Marvel came out. It's like I had this pre-packaged, my first 1,000 users or whatever were just readers of the site. So that was a great way to, to when your idea does come about, just to market it without spending any money. So blogging, definitely. LinkedIn is really good, and it's really underused. Just hitting people up on LinkedIn, making intros, speaking to anyone else in your field, ask them to go coffee and just meet up with you is a good thing. And Twitter is another good thing. So pretty much Twitter, LinkedIn, and a blog will just set you up if you just make sure you post as much as you can, even if it's just just a thought a tiny thought you had can turn into the biggest thing. The Twitter, which is the tweeting kettle, we never really got made. It was just an idea, but it got covered in Wired and things like that. So which got me and the blog a lot of traffic, and all this just helps. It's who's going to know about you if you don't put yourself out there and put your ideas out there? No one's ever going to find you that way. So yeah, just a blog, keep blogging, and be really active on Twitter and LinkedIn and places like that. And I kind of feel like if you do love what you do and you're engaged in tech and design, you'll be doing that anyway. But it all helps. Most of the people I follow on Twitter and I've met up with, it's just because I keep seeing their work or keep seeing their ideas and thoughts posted around the internet. And I'm like, yeah, I have to meet this guy. He's got we share the same ideas, we share the same values. So yeah, definitely get your stuff out there on blogs.
Well, Murat, thank you for joining me on the show today.
No problem.
Where can people find you?
So I have a Twitter account which is Mutlu82, MUTLU82. I'm at marvelapp.com. So I pretty much, now that I'm doing lots of Marvel stuff, I stopped doing the personal blog. And so you can go to the Marvel App blog and see all my posts on there. If you want to read some of my old posts, it's mobileinc.co.uk. And yeah, feel free to say hello.
All right. Thanks, Murat.
No problem. Thanks for having me.